Hi, it's Jerry Roberts back with another edition of Newsmakers Journal of the Plague Year. It is Tuesday, October 27th, 1 week, one Tuesday, 7 days, count them until Election Day. We are joined as every Tuesday by my Calbuzz partner, Phil Trounstine. How are you, brother?
I'm doing okay, Chief. I'm turning off my phone, make sure we don't get interrupted.
All right.
Tell me what's going on.
Well, last week when we spoke, the Real Clear Politics average had Biden up 8.6. Today it's down to 7.4. So I am in a state of imminent panic. Pennsylvania, which is, as you like to say, the keystone state or the keystone key state, is still at 3.8. Wisconsin's still okay. Michigan's getting bigger. However, this seems to be the news. Arizona is narrowing. Last week we had it at 3.1. Now they got it at 2.2. And I know Meet the Press, NBC's Meet the Press newsletter, switched it this morning from toss-up to, or lean Dem to toss-up. So here's my question. Let's start with Pennsylvania. As you know, Biden sort of blundered into this, saying the word yes to a question from Trump about fracking and transition to oil. It's a classic gaffe because obviously the world economy has to transition from oil, but Trump is running around Pennsylvania making it sound like Biden said he wants to shut down the entire oil industry. Do you think it's too late for something like that to make a difference?
No, not in Pennsylvania. Was it Carville who once described Pennsylvania as Philadelphia in the east, Pittsburgh in the west, and Alabama everywhere in between? Pennsylvania is a tough state if the economy, if you have to go after oil, and you have to go after oil if you're a Democrat these days. So I am worried about Pennsylvania, not just because of the vote, although I think Biden can win. I'll tell you how I think he can win. But I'm worried about Pennsylvania because of what may happen after the vote with the Republican legislature and a 6-3 Supreme Court that is just dying to smash state law on. Kavanaugh's ready to just declare the U.S. Supreme Court to be a God's gift to the earth, and
the Board of Elections
basically ignore state Supreme Court rulings. And so Pennsylvania is one of those places where, having created confusion, the Republicans will go into court and say there's so much confusion, you should take the slate of delegates that's put forward by that legislature and then just put forward a Trump legislature, no matter what the vote is. I don't care if Biden wins by 5 or 6. They still may try to do that. So Pennsylvania is a problem. I do think that if Biden gets what Hillary didn't get, which is a big enthusiastic turnout among black voters, and that would mean, in particular, think about it, Philadelphia, Detroit in Michigan, Milwaukee in Wisconsin. Those are places where, with big black turnout and advanced voting and voting that's the votes that are in by November 3rd, by midnight on November 3rd, if that happens, Biden could wind up winning all the
Yeah, your Wi-Fi is falling out here, Chief.
Any trouble happens. As far as Arizona, Texas, Georgia, those are leader votes recently. That's an expedition into.
Hang on a second. All right, go. We were having trouble with the internet connection. See how it is now.
Okay, how's it now? If we're okay now, what I was saying is that.
Keep talking. No, I'm getting your audio.
Going after George. Say what?
I'm getting your audio.
You got my audio?
Yeah. Go ahead.
My audio is working okay?
Yeah, your audio is working. We've got a frozen picture of you on the screen.
Oh, I'm moving on my own. I'm moving. So
you look like one of the
maybe
Lannisters.
It's a connection.
You look like one of the Lannisters from. Anyway,
I told Debbie with my full beard, I do. If I take off my glasses and if I had a helmet, I could look like a Lannister knight.
The Lannisters always pay their debt. Anyway, speaking of Arizona, you were saying. And Georgia.
What I'm saying is this: that the Biden camp appears to feel that they've got the blue wall states nailed down. I'm worried about Pennsylvania as you are. I'm sure they're aware of the vulnerabilities of Pennsylvania, but they're now continuing to fight in those areas, but branching out to Arizona, to Georgia, to Ohio, and Florida.
And
if
Texas,
Biden is successful in any of those states, and even North Carolina even, that cuts into Trump's base in such a way that he's cooked. I think they could win without any of those, but Trump can't win without them.
Right. But if Trump wins all of the Trump states that you just named, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and for God's sake, Texas, and Pennsylvania, then we're in trouble. So
that's exactly correct.
All right, and then of course, just to back up,
Pennsylvania could give you reason to keep your rubber sheets on.
Yeah, just to back up a minute. Now, of course, we had the current Supreme Court yesterday. Toss a decision from Wisconsin about when ballots could arrive and be counted, which suggests that they are going to be very much on the Trump side of things if they end up intervening in states like Pennsylvania. And of course, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan all have this screwy rule where they're not going to start counting even mail-in ballots until until the polls close on election night. So that could get complicated. The thing about Arizona, I have to say, that concerns me is that Senate race, Mark Kelly and Martha McSally, because the Democrats had been kind of banking that one. They remember they need to pick up 3. Colorado looks good with Hickenlooper against Cory Gardner. Maine, Susan Collins continues to struggle there, and then there was Arizona. Now, if Doug Jones loses in Alabama, and we talked about that last time, then they need to probably pick up North Carolina with Tillis, and again, that seems to be tightening a little bit. So, the Senate thing is concerning, as is obviously this 6-3 Supreme Court that they're going to have. Meanwhile, on Pennsylvania, you get Trump's running all over the state. Laura Trump said we're going to have 5 rallies a day by the end, and they got a week. Is he helping himself or hurting himself? What do you think the message is going out? Oh, Trump is campaigning hard and Biden's taking it for granted, or Trump is Mr. Super Spreader spreading COVID all over the world?
I think it depends on who's asking the question. I'm sure Trump supporters see him as just this vigorous, energetic. They're not paying attention to where he's going. By and large, they're just impressed by the fact that he's out there campaigning. Now, he went to Maine. Okay, he went to. What is that? The most important asset of any campaign is the candidate's time. Besides the message of the campaign, if you're actually managing a campaign, the candidate's time is what the fundraisers and the political people all fight about. We need him here. We need him in Wisconsin because we've got to shore up this base, or we need him out in Arizona because we've got a million fundraiser on the line. So what if the president starts going to places like Maine you really got to wonder, what is their thinking? I think it suggests that they are looking at every individual little vote, and Trump had an opportunity to do something personal, which was probably screw Susan Collins.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really care.
Well, and then
by
of
showing
course,
up.
Maine is one of those states that counts its electoral votes by congressional district, and there's that one district.
I think they get two. I think they get two.
Yeah. Right. So there's that one district where if you get into the, 269 to 269 type scenarios, that could end up being crucial. So maybe that was it. The other thing that's happening is Trump is traveling around. I mean, he came to California, for God's sake, because he needs to raise money, because they don't have as much in the bank. They're fundraising just for various reasons. Everybody's already pointing fingers at each other in the campaign. So he's going around. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I think it was probably some combination, although it would not put it past him to do it just to screw Susan Collins either.
But you see, I think if you think about it as political professionals do, and we're analysts, but if you get in the mindset of a political professional, what you're doing is you're using the candidate's time, or you're trying to make the candidate go where you think you need him most. Biden is at the point where he doesn't have to think about, I have to be in X state in order to raise money. The political people are completely in charge in that now, as they should be in the last 2 weeks of a campaign. The last 2 weeks of a campaign, it should be nothing but the political guys saying, we think the most advantageous place for Biden to be, or for Harris to be, is, say, Milwaukee or Tucson or Tampa. Anywhere we think we're going to drive up vote that is crucial to us. And you and I have talked about this several times. I'm okay with them making these forays into Arizona and Texas and Georgia. But as we started saying, the minute before Trump was elected, even, if you're the Democrat, you've got to hold the blue wall, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. If Biden does just that and keeps all the states that Hillary won, he wins the presidency. Yeah. Everything else is gravy.
Yeah, you'd definitely rather be Biden than Trump, but yeah, okay. Well, I've upset enough. As one of my many hats is as the chief morale officer of the Santa Barbara Biden bedwetting brigade, and I have to say I'm a little worried about the. What are you most
worried about?
I'm worried about Pennsylvania? I'm worried about Pennsylvania. I just. I think, it was late in the debate. There were like 5 minutes to go. And there was a way for him to answer the question, but it was, you could tell he was kind of, getting in Trump's, because Trump was like, what about this, Joe? Are you going to do this, Joe? And instead of, doing as he'd done throughout the debate, turning to the screen, talking to the moderator, whatever, he spoke directly to Trump, and he goes, yes, that's what I'm going to do. And I have a feeling that the ads that are running in Pennsylvania may not be entirely intellectually honest about what that means, but he is in a tough position because you got, A, science, and B, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party that's saying, come on, we got to go green, which is a fact. But on the other hand, Trump is Mr. Carbon, and a lot of the Republican base is as well. And a lot of those are union jobs in Pennsylvania. So he's really got to walk a line. And I thought it was an inelegant answer that could have been much better.
I think so too, Jerry. I think that political writers may pay more attention to the specific nuances of policy than average voters do. I really think the fact that Joe Biden is from Scranton and he's a working class Delaware, Pennsylvania kind of guy. That plays well given Trump's deficits. I mean, if Trump were a different kind of character, if he looked like he cared at all about working people or their lives or their survival given COVID-19, if the president had any of those qualities, I'd be much more worried. I do think that Biden a better chance of winning Pennsylvania than Clinton did, and Clinton only lost it by 30,000 votes or so.
Yeah,
36,000 votes or something like that. It was 76,000 votes over 3 states. Pennsylvania was the biggest margin, I believe. But Biden looks more like a Pennsylvania kind of guy.
All right. Let me. So not to worry. Okay, got it.
No, I didn't say not to worry.
It's very useful. And just to close on this, 538, the great Nate Silver has Trump this morning with a 12% chance to win, Biden with an 87% chance to win the Electoral College. So that's Trump's chances are slightly worse than the chances of an NFL kicker missing a field goal. So, okay.
And Real Clear Politics has Biden ahead in Pennsylvania by 3.8.
Yeah.
But
same as last week. And there was a new poll came out.
That includes a Trafalgar poll. They include in that a Trafalgar poll. And Trafalgar is a Republican operation that shapes its polls much more so than your average pollster. If you look at the most of the polls in Pennsylvania have Biden up more than what the average is, 3.8, because it's brought down by that Trafalgar poll, which shows it as a tie.
All right. And then we have the curious case of Hunter Biden's laptop, and there's a lot of hair pulling and wool gathering in and among the media community about how this story played out. Great,
Jerry.
Great piece.
I love conspiracy.
Huh?
I love conspiracies.
Well,
I love conspiracies, but this one didn't make any damn sense. And it seems to me that Rudy Giuliani looks with his hand down his pants.
But as a journalist, you're breaking up.
Devastated.
Hang on.
News.
All right, go. We're back.
You're breaking on the internet. Yeah, I mean, Rudy Giuliani is not a reliable deliverer of news, especially with his hand down his pants.
There was this great piece in the Ben Smith piece in the Times yesterday that the plan, I mean, that the Trump campaign actually had a guy from the Wall Street Journal that they were dumping out all the oppo on. And then Giuliani came in out of left field. They didn't know he was going to do it, and went to the New York Post with this cockamamie story about the blind computer repairman in Delaware, which kind of blew the whole thing up. And the Wall Street Journal wasn't going to get pressured into doing the story. And the key question was, does this connect to Joe Biden? And they decided that it didn't. But, the fact that Twitter and Facebook shut the story down, I don't know if that's good for democracy either. I mean, I don't think Twitter and Facebook are particularly good for democracy, but that's another issue in Trump's favor. Let me ask you something. Our old friend, Mark DiCamillo, former associate of the great sainted late Merv Field, now working with UC on a poll, has some interesting stuff about a couple of the state props. And you and I, back in the old days, and Calbuzz used to really crusade for a split roll assessment plan for Proposition 13, and the CTA, the Teachers Union, and the SEIU have put this Proposition 15 on the ballot to do exactly that. When they did it back in January, obviously nobody knew what the economy was going to look like or the pandemic. And now it's kind of struggling. It's been ahead consistently, but in the UC poll, I think it's only got 48 or 49 yes, and the no is growing since the previous poll. That's not enough to pass it, is it now? I mean, just as a polling indication, do you think?
I think that's very tough. Usually, my rule of thumb is this late in the game, a yes proposition needs to be up around 60%, because the default for voters who don't know what this is, the default is no. No beats yes in California propositions since they were created by Hiram Johnson. 2/3 of the time. I've gone back.
I think actually you covered that press conference of Hiram Johnson's. Did you?
I went back several years ago and put all the propositions together, counted all the yeses and nos, and basically what you come up with is 2/3 of the time, no beats yes, and you really need a good solid lead going into the end of the election, because the default position for most voters is no.
Yeah. And the other thing that's a surprise to me on those is that 16, the affirmative action to restore affirmative action, has been down and down badly from the start. You would have thought, just on the natural, that in the year of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, that there would have been more support for it, but it's been overwhelmingly no on that. Is that surprised you at all?
Well, California's been weird on affirmative action. It plays like on that issue, the response statewide is often quite conservative on that particular issue. It's not really on abortion. It's not on offshore oil drilling. But on affirmative action, the California electorate has always been kind of hinky. The legislature's been way ahead, or the governor's been way ahead on this issue. California, a lot of rednecks aren't sure about whether that affirmative action thing is any good at all.
Well, apparently, a lot of white libs are.
Well, they got kids who want to get into Berkeley, and if they think affirmative action might keep them out.
Yeah.
There's some sort of visceral racism, some institutional racism that exists. Not many people remember Lyndon Johnson said, with the foot race analogy, talking about how, the black guy starts way back behind where the white guy's starting on the same racetrack. Lyndon Johnson made the case pretty well. That's a lot of people, there are very few people remember even who he was.
Well, and of course, California was the site of the really the landmark affirmative action case, the Bakke case, the white guy who was denied admittance to the UC Davis medical school, and the U.S. Supreme Court upheld him, and so that was. It's an interesting one. There'll be a lot.
I think affirmative action's had a hard time in California. We've had Willie Brown, we've had Kamala Harris, we've had a few non-white big statewide leaders, but Tom Bradley never made it.
No, he never made it. Despite what the Chronicle tried to do.
California's not really not terribly. We're not knee-jerk progressive.
Well, I think a lot, but I think a lot has to do with the Asian American community as well, because as a general matter, they're opposed to affirmative action because it often hurts them. Look what's going on in San Francisco with Lowell High right now, you know, where they've decided that, you know, Lowell was overwhelmingly Asian American white, so they're going to do it by lottery, you know, the one decent high school in San Francisco. And there's, you know, a huge amount of ugly stuff that's going on there. All right, enough on that. So we got 2 minutes here. So what do you think? Should we do a show next Tuesday and worry some more as the voters are flocking to the polls under sunny skies? Or
I think we should, because I think we should, because I think the things are happening so fast that new factors are coming into play all the time. I mean, the fact that Amy Coney Barrett is now in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court rejected, told Wisconsin they had to stop voting on November 3rd. And Kavanaugh writes and Gorsuch write an opinion that basically suggests that once Amy Coney Barrett gets here, we're pretty much going to just take over control over this whole voting thing. I think there's some factors that can come into play at the very end where we're very close to a situation where Biden wins the real election and it's reversed by the United States Supreme Court. I think this is possible.
All right. Speaking of things to worry about, thanks for leaving us on that happy note.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you next week. Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Okay.